What's up, guys? Rating climb from 22 to 2400. I have 2 games to show you this time. Let's take a look. Alright, so the first game I was white against a 22-12. Played e4, he played e5, and I went ahead and continued with the Danish gambit. He captured the first pawn, and then he played knight c6. So a lot of players don't like to accept this gambit because after bishop c4 takes, I just get a really aggressive position, and so a lot of players just avoid that by declining the gambit. So knight c6 is actually an interesting move. I don't think I've played against this before, so I went ahead and just recaptured to gain control of the center. And he played bishop b4 check, and I figured knight c3 was a logical way to block the check. It develops a piece to a good square, and if he decides to take it, I can recapture with the b pawn and bring another pawn closer to the center and really solidify my center. So it made a lot of sense. And then he played queen h4. So this is a very aggressive move for black. One of the principles of the opening is don't bring out your queen too early, and he's obviously bringing out his queen pretty early. Now this is a kind of a specific situation because it does create a very annoying attack on this e4 pawn. So the first thing to realize is my knight is pinned, so my knight's not defending that pawn. I can't play f3 to defend the pawn because it would put me in check. And if I play something like bishop d3 to try to defend the pawn, well then his knight can capture on d4 because my bishop would be blocking my queen, right? So there's not an easy way to defend it. Again, even if I play like bishop d2 to block the pin so that my knight defends it, well, his knight can still just capture this pawn, right? So really the only move to defend the pawn probably would be something like queen to d3, but I didn't really want to do that. So I decided to actually turn this pawn into a gambited pawn, and I just ignored it, right? And I just played knight f3. So the idea is that after he captures, which he does, I play bishop e3, and essentially I've gotten 2 pieces developed while he spent 2 moves moving his queen, right? And so I figured, you know, he's a little bit behind in development, so even though I'm losing a central pawn, which usually you don't want to do, it looked like a good enough trade-off for me to get the quick development. So that's why I went that route. And then he played there so he can get ready to castle. And I played bishop d3, just completing my development. And I'm doing it with a tempo, so now I'm also going to be able to maybe castle or do something with my queen, and he still needs to do something about his bishop, right? So that's the trade-off that I got for sacrificing that pawn. These pieces out quickly. So queen g4, and now I played h3, attacking the queen, and my idea is that even though this pawn looks undefended, he can't capture it, because if he does this, I was going to play rook h2, and his queen is actually trapped, right? All these squares are covered by pieces, so my bishops cover that, pawn covers this is covered by the knight, the rook's defended, the queen's trapped, right? So he just loses his queen. So he can't do that, so that's why I played h3 to gain a tempo. So he plays queen h5, and then I played g4, which is a pretty aggressive move. I was thinking that it looked like he was setting up to castle kingside, and so by doing this, I'm kind of preventing him from doing that. It doesn't make a lot of sense for him to castle kingside anymore. And I figured his king's still in the center. Maybe I can do something like queen b3 or queen c2 and castle queenside, and it looked like I was going to get a pretty aggressive position. And since I did give up the pawn, I was trying to play aggressive, right, and take advantage of the fact that I have all of my pieces already developed and he does not. So that's kind of what I was thinking by that. He played queen a5, and so he's lined up here with 2 pieces now. So I played queen to b3 to, number 1, defend my knight so that I can, if he takes, I can recapture with the pawn, and also opens up for me to castle queenside. And the reason I want to castle queenside as opposed to kingside is because these pawns are already pushed forward, right? Castling kingside at this point is very risky because he can play a move like h5, and after he trades off and opens up this h-file, my king's going to be in some real danger, right? So that's very, very risky to castle after you've moved these pawns up. Now, over here, I am missing 1 pawn, but it's not nearly as dangerous as over here. I still have these 2 pawns, so I can move my king over if I needed to, and I have a lot of pieces guarding my king on this side, so it just felt like queenside was going to be a safer option. So that's kind of what queen b3 was all about. He played d6. He wants to get his bishop out. So I followed through and castled queenside. And now bishop e6. And now I decided to play another pretty aggressive move. And to be honest with you, I didn't calculate this all the way through in the sense that I played d5. I didn't know at the time that this was going to actually work out the way that it did. What I was thinking was his king's in the center. So if I'm able to open up the center and get a rook here, it's going to benefit me. Also, it didn't feel right to like just retreat my queen, because then he's going to be able to probably castle, and it seems like we got a pretty even position, except I'm just down a pawn, right? So I figured the only way to kind of keep the initiative and keep the pressure up was to sort of sacrifice this pawn to try to open up some lines on his king. So that was the idea behind that. So he captured it, and now I played bishop c4. And the idea is creating a battery here, putting more pressure on the knight. Now the rook is involved as well. And again, trying to open up lines on his king before he's able to castle and get to safety. And so I'm keeping up the pressure so that he doesn't have time to do that, right? Like now if he tried to castle, I would be able to just take his knight because I have enough pieces attacking it, so he can't just castle. So he played knight takes e3, and then I played bishop takes e6. Now this is another sacrifice. I'm giving him this rook, but the idea is if he takes the rook, then I'm going to be able to follow through with bishop takes f7 check, and then he loses his castling rights, and his king is going to be relatively open. And so in the spirit of staying aggressive, that's why I went this route. So he did capture it, and I followed through with bishop takes f7 check. So I'm losing the exchange, but I'm gaining, the fact he can't castle. I played king f8, and then I took the knight. And now he played queen c5, and he's attacking this pawn. I didn't really care too much because my goal is his king, right? I'm trying to get checkmate. I'm already down material, and so I'm not really too worried about this pawn. I'm focused on how can I get more pressure on his king, right? I have the queen, I have the bishop, but I need some more pieces, right? So I played rook to d5. The idea is I want to come over here and bring a rook, which is a very strong piece, into the action, and I can do it with tempo because his queen is there. And I am going to give this up, and I have to be careful for checks on my king, but it looked like my knights would probably be able to blockade the queen well enough, and so that's what I went for. So he did take that, and I followed through with the plan, rook to f5. This is actually a really tricky position to be in with only a few minutes on the clock. You see he only had a minute and a half, and I only had 58 seconds, so very tricky position to be in with such little time. So he played bishop takes c3, and I knew as soon as he played this that it wasn't a great move, right? Because I had a discovered check on his king, which means I can move this bishop anywhere I want, and it puts his king in check. So I knew that was going to be really good for me, but I actually missed the best move. So it's actually, if you look at the bar here, m3, it's mate in 3 for white. So I had mate in 3 and I missed it. If you want to pause the video, go ahead and see if you can find it. I did not see it in the game. Now I only had 58 seconds, so I didn't want to spend the whole time, and so I played a move quickly, but there was mate in 3. So first, I'll show you what I should have played. Bishop to g8 is actually the best discovered check, and so it creates the check on the king, and then after he moves, let's say like king e7, you can play queen to e6, and when he goes back, only move, you have rook f8 checkmate. And so the important thing about this bishop g8 move that I didn't see at the time is that it blocks the rook, right? You see how I have the ability to play rook f8 checkmate because black's rook is blocked. And so the whole point behind bishop g8 is blocking off the rook, and that's what I missed. So I'll go back and show you what I actually played. All right, I played bishop h5 check because, naturally, a natural looking move is not like bishop g8. It's kind of a weird spot because a lot of times they can just take your bishop. In this case, I needed to do that to block the rook. I just missed it. So I played here. He played king e7, and now I don't have the same, checkmate. Like I can play queen here, but it's not checkmate. But I did play queen f7 anyway, just to bring my queen as close as possible. And again, I'm like running out of time. I only had 19 seconds, so I was playing pretty quick. And so now I don't really have a good way to follow through. His rook is kind of covering everything. I don't have any more pieces left, and I have to be careful that I don't get mated over here. So I took his bishop, and then he tried to continue to put me in check. He played g6, and these last couple moves, like I said, I only had a few seconds. I was playing very quickly. King e7, queen g7. I was just looking for checks and trying to create some sort of pressure. He blocks with the knight, which was a good move. I lined up, so I do have some pressure, but I don't have enough pieces, and you can see the bar, it's -8. I mean, he's up basically a queen, according to the engine. Played rook over, played queen f6, and somehow I was down like 50 seconds. Somehow I was able to just flag him. So I was just moving quickly, and he ran out of time right here. So I kind of got a little bit lucky, but that was my fault for missing the mate in 3 earlier. I should have just won the game right then and there, and I just didn't see it. So, but anyway, got the victory in the end. All right, so next game was against a 22-17. I was black, and we have another center counter. I played knight f6 like I like to do, and he played knight c3. So he's just letting me recapture it, and so I went ahead and did that with a knight, and then recaptured it with the queen. So it's very similar to playing the center counter where you capture with the queen right away, but I like this way better because now that these knights are traded off, he can't play knight c3 and gain a tempo on my queen, right? So I think this is a better version of that for black. So he played knight f3, and I played bishop g4. I'm developing and also pinning the knight, putting some pressure there. So bishop e2, pretty much the only move that makes sense. Knight c6, developing, setting up to castle queenside. I like to castle queenside when I play the center counter a lot of times because you can get some nice pressure along the d file. As soon as you castle it, puts your rook on a half open file, so it makes a lot of sense to castle that way. And if white castles kingside, you can get some very dynamic positions, which I think are a lot of fun. So he played c3 to set up d4, and I just played e6. I'm just trying to get all my pieces out, so this bishop needs to get developed. d4, I went ahead and castled queenside, and then bishop f4, bishop d6. So we're just developing pieces. He traded it off, and I took with the rook. I took with the rook as opposed to like maybe the queen or the pawn, because by taking with the rook, I open up the square if I want to bring this rook over and get a triple battery on the d file. Also, sometimes you can turn this into a rook lift, and a rook lift just means you bring your rook up with the idea of going over somewhere. And so what I was thinking is that if he castles, maybe I could play like e5 at some point and then bring this rook over either to h6 or g6 and attack his king that way. And so it just seemed like taking with the rook made more sense than with the pawn or with the queen. Now he played queen b3, and I did not want to trade because I feel like I'm kind of in the better position right now. Like I'm developed, I'm castled, and he's not castled, right? So I have a slight advantage there. My queen is very strong in the center, and so trading queens seems like it was just going to make life easier for him. So I decided to play queen e4, and this is a really important move. The idea is if he castles, either way really, then his rooks are connected. His king is going to be probably safer on the side of the board. By playing queen e4, I'm preventing him from castling, right? Now if he castles either way, his bishop's going to be hanging. I just get a free piece. So he can't castle because the bishop's hanging. He can't move the bishop because it's pinned. So that's a very annoying move. And you see by his response, king f1 was the only move that he could find. And really that was the best move, right? He had to do something to get out of the pin, because otherwise I could have taken here and his pawn structure would have got all messed up. And so really the only move was something like king f1. And I'm happy with that because now he can't castle, right? So this rook is basically going to be out of the game for a while because it can't just get to the other side of the king easily. So I played e5, trying to open up some of these files so that I can, use my rooks and generate more pressure on his king to take advantage of the fact that this rook is out of the game. So he played rook e1, very good move because he's defending the bishop. So if he needs to move his knight, he can because now it's defended. But also, more importantly, he's creating a discovered attack on my queen. And this is very dangerous for me because now this bishop can come down like to a6 and attack here. And I saw that he was going to do this next, but I thought that I was going to be able to get enough pressure, and I'll show you what I was thinking. So I went ahead and captured. He played bishop a6, and I had this idea in my head that I was going to sacrifice my queen, and it was going to work out nicely. So this is what I thought in my head. I thought I was going to capture. He was going to capture. I was going to capture, and then he was going to take here with his queen. And I wanted to play king d7, and it looked like I was going to get a lot of pressure for my queen sacrifice. I'm threatening to play rook here, trapping his queen. So he's going to have to probably move his queen back. I also have ideas of pushing this pawn and potentially getting a queen, bringing this rook over. His rook is still kind of stuck out of the game. It just looked like I was going to get some compensation. So that's actually what happened. He played bishop a6. I did take it. He did take my queen. But then after I captured, what I missed was that he didn't have to take with the queen. He could take with the bishop. That's what he did. And this is very annoying because now if I play king d7 like I wanted to, this queen can come into f7 and my king is not in a good spot, right? So I played king d8 trying to avoid this check. This was actually just a blunder. He can take up my knight, and then after I recapture, either way, the queen can come down here and win my rook. So it turned out to be not a good idea to sacrifice my queen, and I'm not getting counterplay. In fact, I'm on the defensive now. So sacrificing the queen for the rook and the knight, not really the greatest choice in this case. Now, luckily for me, he missed this little idea of trading and then winning my rook. He played f3 instead, which gave me kind of some life left. So I attacked the queen. After c4, I played knight a5, just forking these pieces, and then I captured it with check. And he played king f2. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm down the queen, but I do have, the rook and the knight and this extra pawn on d4, which is kind of strong. And so a lot of times in situations like this where you're down a queen for a couple pieces, if you can set up some sort of fortress. So when I say fortress, I mean like, maybe the pawn is protecting the rook, which is protecting the knight, right? And the king is kind of hiding behind the pieces or something. It can be difficult for the queen to make progress. And so I figured I would go ahead and trade, my bishop for his bishop, and then try to set up something similar. So first I brought this rook over. I was letting him take this pawn because I figured I could play rook e7, and I kind of have that fortress that I was talking about, right? Like my rook's going to be defending everything here. These guys are all defended. It just looked like a good thing. So he played that rook over, which was smart. We traded those off. And then I kind of went for the same idea, right? Rook to d7. So again, just trying to sort of set up this little fortress where everything is defended. And then c5. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about, right? Like the rook defends the knight defends the pawn defends the pawn. My king's kind of hiding back here. This is also defended. So the idea is to not give the queen targets to just easily capture, right? So that's what I was trying to do. Again, we're both kind of getting low on time, so at this point we didn't have time to think through too much. Traded those pawns off. Brought my knight in, so he can't take this because of the discovered attack on the king and the queen. He'll lose his queen. So he put me in check. And this is another common thing. In endgames like this, you have to be careful for the queen, because either you could get into a perpetual check where he just constantly checks you, or what I was really worried about was that he was going to be able to check me and then capture pawns, for free that are undefended. Now I have most things defended, but that's what you have to be on the lookout for. So like here's an example. He's forking these pieces, but luckily I did have king f8 to defend everything, and he can't come here because of the rook. So queen g4, I played f5, just keeping him away from my rook. Queen over, king up, g6. I'm just trying to defend everything, right? And now I'm centralizing my king. Even though he has a queen, I have to be careful. I wanted to control this square so that my knight could hop over here and really get centralized in a better location. So it actually turned out really well. I put him in check. He went back here, and then he had a minute and 19 seconds, so he had some time, but we were starting to play a lot quicker, and he just completely missed this knight fork, captured my pawn, and after the knight fork, you see the evaluation bar going crazy. Now it's just game over. So again, got a little lucky on both of these games, really, to win them at the end like this, but that happens sometimes. That's just how it goes. I hope you guys learned something from those. As always, thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.